Today I'm with Leah Clement, a longtime networker and a longtime supply chain person out of Atlanta, Georgia. And Leah, I see people in job search mode on LinkedIn and in my general network, very similar to yours. So my purpose with this new series is to get people more exposure while learning about things they're doing either good or bad in their job search, things that other people can learn from, and kind of creating a community to inform, share, and the word I like is edutain people. So
I like that word.
yeah, thank you. So Leah, thank you for being the guest on this pilot session. I mean, you're part of the inspiration for me to do this new series. But I want to invest time to better understanding you as a person, and then more about your recent job search experience.
I'm a native Atlantan. There's only a few of us left, I think. I happened to find one other and marry that one. I still live in the metro area, and I've been here pretty much my entire life. I was in the military. I was in the Marine Corps, so I did leave. Never anticipated coming back and being like a stone's throw from where I grew up, and yet here I am. So, yeah, lifelong Georgian.
It's interesting. I mentioned your background in the Marines.
Yeah.
I mentioned for people that are on job search, I always ask them if they have military background, have they applied for a 3PL or something in logistics? Because that seems to be a natural fit from what I see.
It does seem to make a lot of sense. And, speaking of that background, I got my first logistics experience through the Marine Corps, and I didn't know that's really what it was. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was a diesel mechanic, and I managed a program that oversaw the rehabilitation of our vehicles. We had a huge motor pool. In fact, it was the largest motor pool in the Marine Corps. And my job was to get these vehicles rehabilitated with the anti-corrosive bottom. They were doing the digitized paint. There were a couple of other things in that process, but we had to identify good candidates for the program that were in good working order, had all their parts, and coordinate with the shippers, the shipping facility that shipped all the vehicles via rail. So there was a lot of coordination with the logistics contractors. And I found myself spending a lot of time down at what we just called it the rail, and checking up on where my vehicles were. We had obviously computers back then. It feels like we didn't because it was so long ago, but they were quite limited. So we were working everything off of dot matrix sheets. So I spent a lot of time down there tracking my vehicles, figuring out where they were in transit, where they were in the process, when are they coming back, and just really enjoyed that process. Didn't realize it had a name. The contractors had offered me a position to join that team, but I would have to live in a place I didn't want to live. It wasn't working for me. And so I just opted to come home instead. But my very first thing I did, having left the Marine Corps, was I walked into a staffing office. I met a person who employed me in way too many places, bless her heart, and a good friend of mine, somebody I count among a good friend today. She hired me, and I started working in a staffing branch. And that's where I got some more exposure to the warehousing, manufacturing, distribution, those types of things. And it was just so intriguing to me. There's something so special about learning how you get your stuff, and how it's created. Again, it was one of those things. This took a long time for me to connect the dots. Did that for many years at a couple of different companies with the same person. Her name's Valentine. And I'll plug her in a minute if you let me. Ended up several years down the road 20 years down the road, at a company that did cost per unit solutions in warehousing, distribution, kitting, those types of things. It was just this continuation of making it make sense. And the last company I was at, Agility, the best operations you'll ever see. They are so good at running an operation, recruiting, optimizing, and the customer would get the benefit of the cost savings plus the optimization and all of those things. But I really gained a level of clarity that I didn't want to be the labor person in this equation. And it was there that I started thinking, gosh, I'd really love to work for a 3PL. That's where I kind of started seeing that being kind of a culmination of this 20 plus year journey. And through that, I'd also had some exposure to some supply chain organizations, CSCMP being the most experience I've had with supply chain organization. Just getting to touch, taste, and feel other things. So when my journey ended at Agility, it was so timely. I don't think a lot of people get the ability to say it was such a blessing to be there and to be able to leave there and step into something different, because it really did give me a lot of clarity of thought of what I wanted to be when I grow up.
So let me level set. This is the good part.
Yeah.
Because you're the inspiration for this whole series, by the way, based on what we're prepared to talk about. So you left Agility. Is that Agility? Yes.
Agility
Yeah. Okay.
with an I.
Thank you. Agility. And you were out of work for a bit. Is that safe to say? Or
I was for about 30 days in total, but I did accept an offer on my ninth day out.
ninth day out? So
Yeah.
that's inspirational. Now again, I see a lot of people. Maybe you see a lot of stories on LinkedIn, personal things. People might be struggling, but I want to hear success stories. And
Yeah.
more importantly, like what you did to be successful. You've already talked about a few things. CSCMP, I can see your personality probably has a big factor in it too. But let's kind of drill down into, what that 30 days was like. Well, actually, the 9 days, 0 to 9. I didn't even realize it was less than 30 days. So what happened there, and what do you think were some of the key factors that helped you obtain?
It was a whirlwind. It was I was exhausted after the first week. The day I announced that I was leaving, it was my last day at Agility. And when I knew I was leaving a few days before, I reached out to a few members of my network and just said, "Hey, I'm going to be leaving. If any support, any leads would be greatly appreciated." But then I made the broad announcement, which was it's a little scary. It's a little scary to tell the world, "Hey guys, I'm unemployed. I don't have a job." I think we place so much of our worth and our value on our contribution and what we are able to do for people, whether that's for your family or for the world at large. We place so much of our worth in that, and to say today I don't have anything to do kind of feels like saying I don't have any worth. That was super scary, and then that was kind of like a fight in my own mind to go, I need my network to be successful. I've spent many years cultivating a good, strong network of people that I value, and I need them. I need them. I couldn't operate through a job search trying to make a vertical switch into something I've never done, but I've kind of always been around. I couldn't make that switch without raising the flag and saying, I need you guys. And I literally cried tears, like for real tears, on Friday night when I told my husband, all right, we're going to go out for dinner. We're going to celebrate my unemployment. and, and then I'm going to hit it on Monday. And I didn't pay attention to my phone. And we got back to the car after, our little favorite wing spot. And my phone had just blown up. And I looked at it. And one of the messages that jumped out at me on LinkedIn was someone had said something along the lines of, anyone who has 38 people share and endorse you in your message, I need to meet. And I mean, all of this happened while I was listening to a band and eating some wings. We got back in the truck and I looked at my phone and I just started crying because I took what felt like a gamble to put myself out there and say, I need your help. And to feel like, the calvary came in. And by the time I got that message, 45 people had shared and endorsed and said something of endorsement for me. And there were people that I had taken the time to meet with and get to know them. And there were some that had just been kind of quietly watching me. And then outside of that, the myriads of messages just saying, send me your resume. I want to introduce you to so and so, and sending me job postings within their organization. It was it was overwhelming. It also made for a very busy Monday morning, trying to trying to respond to all those people. I will I will forever be grateful for that support. To support somebody in their job journey or in their whatever journey it is, whether they're working or not working or looking for something or hoping to expand their network or grow their sales or grow their knowledge, you don't have to take the time out of your day. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're not at a place where you can. For those people who not only were willing to have a conversation with me and to learn about what I'm looking for before, during, and after, for those people to take that time to do that was absolutely overwhelming. I was hopeful on Friday. I was confident on Monday.
So I've just got to ask this one. What's your favorite wing spot? If you
Okay,
had
well, I'm going to
any-
let you in on a little secret. I make it out like I eat wings, but I'm that person. I like the thought of wings, but my
You
husband
don't
is
like that.
he is the wing connoisseur. And there's two different spots, but one is a stone's throw from our house. It's in I think Lilburn or Lawrenceville, or I don't know. It's in this weird place where all the towns are like one side of the road is
Okay.
this and the other. But it's called Dillons, and they make a smoked wing, and they're not anemic. They're big, fat, juicy wings, and they have really good flavor. But I don't love eating the bone, so I'll kind of pick around his. But I'm a Philly cheesesteak girl too, so I'll take one or two of his wings. But it sounds better to say you're out eating wings,
Yeah.
but they
Cheesesteak.
are good. They're really good.
I might check that out. I might.
Yeah, definitely do. And when you do, tell me and we'll come up there and check it out with you.
Okay. This is interesting. So your network really was a big factor. And so
Huge.
the other thing is LinkedIn maybe, but I don't want to emphasize LinkedIn too much
I understand.
because it's good and bad, both
Yeah.
depending on what you're using it for.
Yeah.
But you have your network through LinkedIn. So it's more the tool.
Hmm.
But your network was sounds pretty exceptional. So that I think that's something we could highlight as a message for this whole thing is your network, value your network.
Absolutely. And value your network, lean into your network. Don't shy away from letting, obviously, use sense. Don't put all your personal business out there for fodder for the world. I made a point of having, it's part of my sales strategy before, of having one on ones with people in my network. I joined a group probably about a year ago called Newtown Networking out of Newtown, Pennsylvania. And it's industry agnostic. The gentleman who started that group, his whole mantra was fear and gratitude can't exist together. And that we're not here to, it's not the old days of like BNI, which networking has always been a big part of my strategy, regardless. But, back in the day, you sat around a table and you said, this is what I do. And then you went back around the table the second time and people gave you a lead or didn't, whatever. I really started kind of changing up my strategy to go, how can I help? How can I help somebody? How can I help you get what you want? And that was all through Newtown and also a group called the Logistics Connect group. But how can I help you? What value can I bring to your group? And from a sales standpoint, it's a little pokey, it's a little slow, but it's also kind of funny. I got a couple of leads from one of those groups the week I left my job. So it does work for both for a sales, but also for a job networking standpoint. But just being able to come back around to those folks and say, now's my time of need. Can you at least share my information or can you keep an eye out? And people were so willing to do that. They were just
Mhm.
so willing. And people I had very little interaction with, but I had a good positive interaction with them one time and they just stood up. It was dumbfounding, honestly. I was beside myself.
Mhm. Well, your personality is contagious. That's good.
Right.
I don't want to sound like a virus, but no, and it's good. And it's something that's part of the reason that we're here today. Because there are several other things that you've done. So can you get into the nuts and bolts of how you found your new job?
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 I reached out to somebody I had met through actually two different people I had met through the Logistics Connect group. and said, "Hey, I'm a free agent," or something along those lines. And they said, "Oh, you need to talk to us." And I was like, "Okay, I'll talk. Sure, whatever." And then one of those persons sent an email to their president that said, "We need to talk to this gal." And I was like, "Oh God." That felt, I am so appreciative. And I was like, I was like, "Oh, that was a lot."
Yeah. No, I mean, just look, you can't see it, but look at your smile. It just
Oh, I mean,
radiates.
I'm just tickled
You are
pink.
on cloud
Really,
nine.
really am. I was a little taken aback at how much I enjoyed the conversation with that particular leader. I didn't expect that. Another one of the things, this is not a question you asked, but one of the things that I encountered a lot my first really 2 weeks is there were a lot of phone interviews and getting to know you interviews that were not formal, but were kind of a little formal. They were a lot of these casual conversations were first steps that would lead to a second formal
Okay.
interview. I'm glad that I said yes to a lot of conversations that led to interviews, a day or two later or
So
a
these
week.
were people in your network that said, "Hey, I
These are
would like to
people,
talk to you."
yeah.
They were
The,
somewhat screening you, perhaps, or
yes,
oh,
absolutely.
oh,
Yeah. For better or for worse, I kind of am who I am, regardless of who I'm in front of. So I think it's easy to tell in a super casual, laid back environment who's going to really fit in the environment, who's going to fit the culture, who's not going to fit the culture. But it's also be mindful because you still want to be able to articulate what you bring to the table,
hmm,
but in a super casual conversation, you become casual about that. So just for the job seekers out there, when somebody wants to have a conversation with you, you still bring your A game,
yeah. No, that's
even if it's not a formal interview.
right. No,
Yeah,
that's a great point because actually you're interviewing all the time.
that's true.
You just don't. You kind
Just
of
don't know it.
you're always on the spot. But
Hmm.
oh, this so you talk to the president.
Talked to the president, who encouraged me to talk to a couple people in the organization. Honestly, I was a little skeptical. Sorry, Mike. I was a little skeptical because it you ever had a first conversation and you didn't want to like it the way you did because you
Hmm.
you want to be smart and make wise decisions. I know a couple things about me. One thing is I am a Pollyanna at heart. I can find the silver lining in every situation. And I can this is terrible. This go back to some militaries. I can spit shine a turd. I can take something that's not great and make a great scenario in my mind about how it can work. And so trying to be a little self-aware, I wanted to sleep on it. I wanted to think about it. I did talk to a couple of the people that I knew in that organization who pulled no punches. Everybody was really happy to be there. But one of the things that they were not prepped up in any way, we had very casual conversations. Both people said, if I could have been here years ago, I would have. If I knew this was an opportunity I could grab 5, 10 years ago, I would have already been here. Oh, not many people can say that. Usually people are really good at saying what they'd like to change or what could make the organization better, and they'll tell you what makes it good. And they were very open about some of the things they'd like to see, that maybe in addition. But it when somebody says, if I could have been here years ago, I would have.
Says a lot about the organization. And
It
that's
does.
just a note that I wrote down while you were talking is you are also interviewing the company. So it's a two-way street. So sometimes
Right,
we forget that.
right.
I don't want to say desperation or whatever sinks in, but you need to make sure it's a good fit for you.
Absolutely. And there was another company that I was talking to that I really liked as well. But this company offered, there was more to it. It's a logistics company. they on-demand warehousing, third-party logistics, transportation, all of the things. It feels like there's so much opportunity to learn the things I wanted to be close to it better. Whereas this other company was contract logistics. And knowing I'm making a shift, knowing I'm leaving labor and staffing into trying to get into a logistics company, I was willing to do that. But my heart was to really get into uh, closer to the warehousing distribution, the operations itself.
Well, you mentioned CSCMP, but you are actively involved.
I
Yeah.
am. And actually that was a large part of the conversation. I want to remain involved. I see a lot of value there. I would not have the strength of network without them, first of all. In fact, I met you through CSCMP.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have the strong network without them. I wouldn't have understood the importance of networking and learning outside of my little niche area without them. And so involvement to me is important. I am in a board role in Atlanta, and I am participate nationally with Edge Conference. As this year, I am on the conference committee
Oh,
and mentoring the warehousing and distribution track chairs. I sometimes think, how in the heck did I get here? It's the craziest thing, and I love it. I love every moment of it. So their support of my involvement in those that organization was really important to me. I have some commitments this year that I want to see through. I have a 2-year commitment to the roundtable that I want to honor, and that was a huge make or break for me.
so you're going to tell people to join Atlanta Roundtable.
100%.
Got it. I wrote that down there
100%.
for the show notes. And but you from my view, you've played many of the right networking levers, job search levers, but it really comes down to you as a person. So you're just contagious. I'm excited going into the weekend now, having this discussion.
Well, I
Now,
appreciate that.
now what's your new role?
Well, I'll be in business development. The company is RAZR, RAZR Logistics,
RAZR. Okay.
RAZR. I will be learning all about selling all kinds of different solutions. Like I said, on-demand warehousing, kitting, 3PL, 4PL, things like that. We have dedicated, but we also have a large partner. We have large partnership resources and other third-party logistics providers. So I'm going to dumb it down. I don't know if I'm doing it correctly yet, so hopefully I'll get corrected. A lot of it is matchmaking. Somebody who needs to fill their warehouse. I know a customer, we match them up, and it's a beautiful relationship. But there's an opportunity to explore and provide services that are so much further reaching than I've had in the past, or had access to in the past. I'm super excited about that. I'm really excited to learn about all things logistics, not just to hear about them,
Mm-hmm.
but to begin to live them.
Yeah, that's an exciting, and then just see it in your voice, and you see it in your voice. That's funny. On your smile and just who you are as a person. So I appreciate now as we wrap down, any final words on just kind of a quick snapshot on how to find a better career, a job, anything like that?
I mean, I just can't say enough. Lean into your network. A fellow job seeker, somebody I've known for many years, sent me some resources about pivoting into a new area of your career without having to take a step backwards. So to have those resources to read through and to kind of know how to position myself. People around me have shared tips on how to build my own elevator speech, for example, when I talk to somebody, and just little things that just are they're very tangible things, but what they are also is support and care. It broke my heart when I began to put myself out there, and people said to me, This is my third layoff in 5 years, and I've been laid off now for a month, and you could just hear it.
Hmm.
It's scary. And I had to, again, when you're Pollyanna, it's helpful, but I had to really kind of fight against fear to not be fearful in this process. And I know it sounds kind of dumb. I accepted an offer on day 9 to say, oh, this is, but it was every day, it was me psyching myself up to go, I'm not scared. I'm not concerned. We're going to be okay. We're not going to go without. And again, without the network, without the support, that would have been a whole lot harder, to rev myself up to put myself out there another day. It can be scary, and I learned a little bit of that. But I truly believe with good folks around you, it'll be a little less scary.
That's great. And speaking of good folks around you, are you open? And I know you're starting a new role soon, this week or next. I don't know.
Monday.
Monday. Okay. So you're going to be super busy. Everybody that's listening, she's going to be super busy. But are you open to people still connecting with you and talking about
hundred
what
percent.
you did and how just getting inspiration?
Absolutely. And I put something on the calendar for recurring on Tuesdays at noon. Any job seekers out there, my job was networking. I mean, that was a part of my strategy. It wasn't my whole job, but that was a part of my strategy. And so I know that I realize there are people, especially, the people in operations, that they're head down and they're making things happen every single day.
Hmm.
That they network with the people that affect their circle, with their providers, with their this, with their that, with the suppliers, things like that. But they don't necessarily network in the broader sense. So I
Yes.
wanted to make sure that there was support for other people. So I do have a Zoom meeting. If you go on my LinkedIn page, it's just Leah P. Clement, I believe. There's a post about that, and there's a Zoom link. I want to have a place where I can open my network and say, let's see who we know in common, or who do you want to talk to. And as an example, there's one of those folks from that group who we talked 3 weeks ago about his one of his goal employers he's interviewing with today.
Today? Great.
Today, yeah. And he was talking to somebody at this level. I knew somebody at this level, so we just kind of, you know,
Merged.
I sent his resume over to somebody else in the organization that's well removed from the operation, and he was talking to an ops manager, and so we ended up with a VP when it was all said and done. So I don't know who he's interviewing with, but just to be able to cheer for that dude and to help him make those connections, man, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm sure RAZR is a fantastic company,
I'm
but
excited. I think they're
you
great.
you could be possibly a great life coach. I mean, just thinking about that, multiple streams of income. Or what about recruiting that? As I'm talking to you here, I'm like, you could do a lot of different things. But RAZR is going to be great. RAZR is going to be the spot. So
One of the things that I have thought about is kind of a networking coach to helping people to network. And I'm kind of thinking through that. I don't know. I don't know. I got to get my feet on the ground first,
yeah,
and that could be a Saturday project.
good idea. And how do people get in touch with you? Best way, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is the absolute best way. Yeah, I think LinkedIn is the best because I don't I do have a new email address, but I don't really know the ins and outs of how that's viewed.
Yeah, the
Um,
protocol. Sure.
so definitely LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and shoot me a message, send me a request. I've got plenty of space.
Okay. I encourage everybody to like this video and this interview and take away some notes. I've got a whole several pages of notes here that I'm going to try to post up there. So,
Oh.
Leah, thank you for being in my network. Thank you for the inspiration, and I appreciate your time today.
Well, I appreciate talking to you. It's been great to be a part of your network and to know you, and I've really enjoyed connecting a little deeper over this. So thank
Great.
you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, take care.